Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Tim's Time. Well, most of you know that I filmed Tim's Time 2 or 3 days before you actually get them. You get them on Monday of a new week, which means I filmed this a couple days ago, a little earlier than that. Some of you probably know this from Facebook world, but yesterday I had the privilege of finishing up 6 months, a little over 6 months of chemotherapy. They have this ritual at the cancer center where on your last day of treatment, they bring you up to this wall where they have this huge bell and a rope hanging down, and all the nurses and technicians who are in the cancer center and who aren't so busy with patients that they can come around and gather, they all gather around you, and you're there with, for me yesterday it was Donna. Donna took a picture of the first instant. The nurses stay with you and you ring the bell, and everybody who's present cheers and applauds and tells you well done and celebrates with you that you finished chemo. It's my second instance of ringing the bell. The first time my chemo was a little bit different. The ritual was the same, but the the method of chemo I took was a little more drastic and harsh, and I don't really remember ringing the bell. I almost felt like a zombie slapping my hand down on the bell at the time. Well, the ritual is a little different now, pretty much similar, but a little different. And my chemo affected me in a way, or did not affect me in a way, so I was a little more aware of what I was doing yesterday. And so there I gathered, and Donna took a picture of me with all the nurses and technicians around. And then Donna came over there and stood with me. And one of the nurses took a picture of the two of us standing there together. And just for a moment, I held it together. I didn't want to cry in front of all the nurses. I hugged their necks and said thank you for everything. But just for a moment, this overwhelming sense of all that I've been through and what God has enabled my family and us as a church family to go through together hit me. And I had this sense that it was twofold. One, my mind went all the way back to September when my back started hurting, October when they started doing thoracentesis and taking out fluid from my lungs, and then doing the checks when we first suspected that my cancer was back, needle biopsies, more thoracentesis, other x-rays, further tests, consultations. All of this began back in September. I didn't have my first chemo treatment until December, and all of that came flooding back, along with the sense of cards and phone calls and text messages and gifts of soup and food and hugs and encouragement and deacons stepping up and taking on responsibilities that I would ordinarily take. I haven't been to the hospital and the nursing homes because of my immune deficiency, and they've handled all of that so wonderful. And this sense of just finally coming to some kind of conclusion just was overwhelming. And the only word I can really use is just gratitude. And so it hit me, and that was the first thought that flooded into my mind. And I thought, all right, let's get it together, because I don't want to see these nurses see me crying here today at the bell. Second thing that popped in my mind, which was amazing to me, was the very first book I ever read by Max Lucado. It wasn't the first one I had been given or had bought, but it was the first one I read. It was called The Applause of Heaven. And he closes out that book by talking about arriving in heaven, and the sea of faces will be there. Some of them you will know and they'll be familiar, and others you will not. Lives that you've touched and lives that have poured themselves into you, and then the Lord will be there. And there'll be this overwhelming sense of gratitude as people break into applause to welcome to your heavenly home. Now listen, Max is a far better writer than I am, better than most. But he would have to admit he doesn't really know if it's going to be that way. And we don't really know whether they're going to be faces per se and they applaud as we come in. But this much I do know. The overwhelming sense of gratitude and the goodness and the love of the Lord is waiting for us out there. And boy, I want to go. I've got a long way to go still with my cancer, and I have to still dig my way out of this little cycle with the Lord's help and get my immune system and my strength back together. But I'm looking forward to the challenge of the weeks and months ahead, and I'm looking forward to getting back to being me as much as I can be. I again want to thank those of you in the online world as well as my church family for just loving on me and Donna and my family. It's been an interesting ride, but a good ride, and I'm grateful. But hear me, I'm even more grateful for the interesting ride that we are all on, knowing that one day we might even ring a bell. And there really might be those who've contributed to our lives and we've contributed to theirs, gathered around applauding. And we're going to feel an overwhelming sense of fullness and gratitude. So as you're praying this week, I want you to remember our needs as a church family and those things you're drawing a circle around and you're claiming. But don't forget the most important piece, that the God who made you and who loves you is with you, and He's waiting for you. Have a fantastic week. God bless.